Hello, and welcome to Shedding the Bitch Radio, where you can discuss, debate, and get advice on how to discover and shed the bitches of fear, insecurity, self-doubt, and negative mindsets so you can realize your dreams and life purpose and create and accelerate the riches you want in life. Join us here live every Tuesday at noon Eastern and dialogue with us at 818-572-2910. You can also chat with us at Blog Talk Radio /SheddingTheBitch or share your stories on our website at SheddingTheBitch.com. Whatever the bitch is that's holding you back from living your life to the fullest, it's not worth giving up the riches in life that you deserve. So call in now and let Bernadette Boas know what's holding you back. 818-572-2910.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Shedding the Bitch Radio. And yes, indeed, I'm Bernadette Boas, and I am so excited about today's conversation. You got to hold on tight because we're going to be talking about awakening the power of sex and money with Todd. But before we get into that, and trust me, you want to be here. But before we get into all that, I just need to thank our new viewers and listeners. Obviously, whether it's on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts, Blog Talk Radio, SheddingTheBitch.com, even our Shedding the Bitch Facebook page, you are finding us. You are liking, commenting, giving us recommendations on topics and guests. And it's fabulous. And we so appreciate it. And we really do ask you to continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow, like, rate us, leave comments, because it certainly helps to ensure that we're bringing the best content to you, as well helps other new viewers and listeners to find the show. And of course, our ongoing fellowship, community, tribe, that's been just a consistent foundation for us over the number of years Shedding the Bitch has been out there. You certainly, through your subscriptions and follows and likes and feedback, you are helping us get those new viewers and listeners. So we can't thank you enough. And we're very honored to be able to support you in whatever you might be dealing with in your business and life. So please continue to give us feedback and to give us suggestions and recommendations, and even, ways that we can amp things up or improve them. We welcome all of that because it's, we're here for you. So thank you so much. I also want to thank our sponsor, North Georgia Tax Solutions. Debbie Snelling and her team provide full service financial and tax services to small to corporate sized businesses and individuals all around the country, not just North Georgia. And so please check her out. She's fabulous. She's on my team. I feel very honored to have her and her team working for me. So please check her out at ngtaxsolutions.com. All right. So let's get into this conversation, shall we? Because it's going to be spicy. All right. We're going to be spicy. How about that? All right. We're going to talk about awakening the power of sex and money with Todd. We're going to talk about the fact that if your income and your confidence depends on your actions as your mindset, then this discussion might be really interesting to you. What if the real purpose of sex and of money was not what you thought of? And what if both of these taboo topics were actually our greatest spiritual teacher? Outdated and unhealed beliefs about money, sex, influence, and confidence are the number one thing that keep women from getting what they want. Are you listening? Are you listening? Seriously. Changing the way you look at both sex and money is absolutely, absolutely vital to your success. And I would say both in your business and in your life. So I want you to be listening for why now is this paradigm shift and why money and sex are connected. Listen for the science. Nerves and dopamine, pleasure and confidence all play a role in sex and money and your influence in building a business that you want and a life that you want. I want you to be listening for 3 power centers. Eliminate your number one barrier to success and the way that women manifest. Very different than men. And lastly, what is power? The power of desire, power activating exercise that we're going to walk through with our guest. Now, for Dawn, our guest, and for all of you, I ground you in a rich question. which is based on the subject that we're talking about. So you can, even if you joined thinking, oh, this isn't really, meant for me. Yes, it is. And I'm going to help you kind of understand how. So this rich question is just relevant to the topic that I want you to be considering as we get through and go through this conversation. And it might trigger some ideas, some thoughts, some questions you might have. And then, of course, I'm going to make sure you have all of our guests' information so you could be reaching out to her directly. Okay. So your rich question today is categories, sex and money. What are your beliefs? Good, bad, or indifferent, limiting or abundant? What are your beliefs when it comes to sex, when it comes to money? And then lastly, how does that tie to your success? Think about it. Self-awareness is key. So think about it. All right, let's introduce our guest and bring her into the program. Todd is the founder of Wildly Successful Women, a networking organization of over 10,000 members. She's also a teacher, author, serial entrepreneur, consciousness junkie, a lifelong seeker of bliss for herself and others. With over 25 years as an energy medicine teacher and practitioner, and 15 years as an author, speaker, and executive business consultant, Dawn brings a deep, deep understanding of sacred feminine energy, prosperity consciousness, and intention alongside grounded business practices. You can find out more about Dawn at dawntodd.com. I also want you, though, make note of a couple of other places. FeminineIntentionCircles.com or rise.intentional.ceo. Her stellar list of partners include Country Financial, Microsoft, American Express, Napoleon Hill Foundation, Rockies Venture Club, Angel Capital Summit, E-Women's Network, and Constant Contact, and so much more. So welcome to the show, Dawn.
Hi.
I'm so excited you are here.
I'm so excited to be here. Wow. I love hearing you do your introduction. It's so great.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, this subject is awesome. Sex and money.
Sex and money.
And success. Who can't write a better topic for discussion? All right. So I want to go back. I'd like to make sure that our community, gets to know you, like you, trust you, and then they'll do for you. So share a little bit about your backstory, who you are, where you come from, and how did you get into this particular niche?
How did we get here?
Yeah.
How do we get to this conversation, right?
Yes.
Well, I started out as a body worker. I owned a medical massage clinic for a long time. Most of my folks had either head injuries or post-traumatic stress disorder. So I have a lot of training in body-mind medicine and trauma release and how trauma affects the body, and some changes in Colorado. I live in Colorado, and our Colorado laws changed, and that income just really deteriorated. We dropped our revenues by about 80% over the course of 6 months through some changes in Colorado law. And I knew I had built that business, and it was very successful. I was the primary breadwinner for my family. My husband and I have 5 kids. He had 2 when we got married, so we have 7 daughters.
Congratulations.
Yes, that's lots of girls. He worked for the clinic. So I was, we had just bought a new house, and I was making all the money. He was working for the clinic. And when that evaporated, it was a pretty big deal. And I knew I had built that business very intentionally with energetic business principles, let's say. And I stepped into coaching thinking that's really what I wanted to share in the business world. And, my training as a body worker, I think once you're a body worker, you're sort of always in that, you see things through the eyes of the body and energy.
Yeah.
And I started to really realize that the body has a big influence in our business. So what's happening in our business can be traced back to what's happening in our body. And through an intuitive process, I ended up developing what I'll call the feminine manifesting map. And that is a way of looking at a business through 3 major power centers in the body, and understanding that the place in the body where our money lives, our soul calling, our legacy that we leave behind is also all about sensuality and sex. And I started to really understand and see that for women that weren't really saying yes to themselves sexually or sensually, like just saying yes to pleasure, they were saying no to money, no to abundance, because sex and money are so closely tied.
Yeah, and could that be? And if I'm looking down, it's because I'm taking notes, everybody.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, because trust me, you want to take notes. But would that tie back to their belief systems? That they were taught about what, especially women,
Especially women. I think especially women. There are so many reasons why women, why we don't get fully embodied, for one thing, and a lot of beliefs about sex and money, very similar beliefs. Like you could say, well, nice girls just don't do that, or I don't know, I maybe that might be just too much. That's just like too over the top, right? Like that could be, you could be talking about how much pleasure or how much fun you could have. And you could also be talking about, oh, I don't know, even though we say we want more money, maybe there's responsibilities or other things that come with that.
Right.
So the
Right.
beliefs about sex and money can be very, very similar. And if you think about a snowman with 3 snowballs, and the bottom snowball is that from the waist down, I'll say, and it's the womb, it's our reproductive organs, and the middle snowball is around the middle of the body, and then there's one up around the head. And this lower area of the body in business is related to our product or our offering. It's also where our soul calling lies, because when a soul fully embodies, it buckles down into the perineum. So like it's when we're fully in our body, we're anchored all the way in, right? So it made sense to me that if we're creating a product or an offering and we're not fully embodied, we're not able to really feel the presence of our soul way down deep, and we're saying no to our sensuality, that it's really hard to create something, especially for entrepreneurs, that's deeply aligned. And that's one of the big reasons why women end up shuffling around and not really landing on what it is they're here to do, because what gets in the way is beliefs about what it means to drop all the way down into that lower power center. Like we have all these beliefs about, sex and being sexy and sensual, what that means.
Interesting.
I'll come back to that in just a second, because I want to follow this snowball idea. But the middle power center is all about how we ask for what we want, speaking our truth, saying what's true. The shadow of that is being the bitch, where we're so afraid to be a bitch, and people might see this posture where people sort of, oh my gosh, I don't want to say that, like we kind of fold into it. This middle power center in business is about the sales process and being very comfortable in asking for the sale, saying, hey, this is what it is to work with me. And then the upper power center is about our vision of where we're going, our connection to spirit, and expanding our work into the greater world, like writing a book, blog posts, social media, all of that stuff. And most business conversations, and I'll say even the Think and Grow Rich conversation, and I love Think and Grow Rich. It was an awesome book.
Me
Great
too.
book. But it's a top-down conversation. It's what's the size of the widget? How many people will buy this widget? How much is it going to cost to make this widget? And it's a descending conversation. And that is a very, I'll say, a masculine way of creating. And it's the bomb. It works great. But for women, it's hard to sustain. So as women, we have to start at the bottom. And for us, it sounds like gosh, am I really aligned with this? Could I really get behind this? Do I deeply believe in it? Would I have energy for it? Would I love it? And then we talk about it. And if you've ever tried to sell something that you had a question about or you weren't totally aligned with, it just
Yep.
doesn't work, right?
Yep.
We cannot force ourselves
Right.
to get behind something that we don't believe in. That's called integrity. And for women, it really starts in this womb area. And so then if you think about maybe someone who's an amazing woman, she so spiritual, so connected, she'd give you the shirt off her back. She's just an incredibly beautiful soul. But if you bring her up in your mind, you may know that she struggles sometimes with money, right? It's
Right.
a constant shuffle. And if you think about her energy system, like she's got a lot going on above the waist and not so much below the waist, right? Like it's almost like there's that bottom snowball is melted, missing. Why
Yeah.
is that? Well,
Right. But
our
how would that be projected from like a stranger who doesn't know what someone's sensuality, sexuality, money issues
So
are?
I'm simply talking about just energy activation. I'm
Okay.
just talking about like
Okay.
it's not necessarily about knowing what someone's financial
Right.
picture is like. It's
Right.
more just recognizing the energy that they carry in their body. And there's a difference between someone that is fully embodied and really dropping way down into the body
Yeah.
and someone who has difficulty with that and is sort of living from the waist up, right?
Right. Right. So
Is that
let me ask you another question. Since you mentioned body and you mentioned like the womb and the reproductive, does the head of a snowman, for instance, does the top, does that relate to the brain? And then does the middle part relate to the heart? Or is this not necessarily physical? And it's more, like you said, it's more based on integrity. It's more based on their values. It's more based on, their belief systems.
Well, I do think that there is an organ connection, and the vagus nerve, which comes out of the base of the brain, connects the brain, the heart, and for women, it goes all the way to the cervix. So there is a huge connection between what is happening in the organ of the uterus and the brain, and also the smooth muscle tissue of the cervix is the same muscle tissue that's in the throat. So if you've ever had a scope in the throat where they're
Right.
sending a camera down there,
Right.
it looks exactly like a cervix, same
Wow.
tissue. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, weird, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
What's coming out of our mouth is deeply related to what our cervix is doing as women, and it's connected by the longest nerve in the body.
Yeah. And that's unique to women?
That is unique to women. Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what I was picking up on, maybe intuitively, but what I was picking up and feeling when you were just going through that descriptions is it's also the reproductive, is system is unique to women.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, it creates does it create all types of unique, distinct, and that's why you're saying, even from a vibration or energy perspective, that's why it's different for women. And that's why women need to look at these things very distinctly than how men and the masculine look at it. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think that there is a difference in the way that women, the way that we view business and community and the way that we do collaboration. And women are really, we are designed to be in community with each other. And even from a biological point of view, we're, even in the ovaries, there's all those eggs together, right? We like to be together, women, and women, even in conversations like, in person and even over Zoom where we're feeling connected, you start to feel that sense of community and connection.
Yep.
And, that's dopamine being released into your system, right? And for women, even when we think about something pleasurable and happy, we have a dopamine release. When we get super stressed out and we're in that overwork, overproduction, constantly being the rainmaker all the time, our cortisol levels go up. And one of the ways that we know that's happening is from belly fat. Like cortisol likes to lay down that belly fat.
Yeah, it does.
It
Called
does.
Boas fruit. Yes, it does.
So, being in pleasure and dopamine can actually normalize the way our body holds fat too. So, anyway, it's it just occurred to me that, in this process of business that we, as women, the way we view our sensuality, or even being able to drop into this womb space and feel okay with that. And there's many reasons why sometimes that's not okay, like traumas, cultural expectations. Truly, a woman who is owning her sensuality and is sovereign in her sexuality is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
Because she does not take any guff. Let's just nicely say it like that.
Right. And so you could look at, like, if you were, networking, collaborating, and engaging with a group of people, especially women, you can kind of look at the fact that that type of woman and the way she's projecting, it's because she is totally in tune and in tap and just powerful in all three of those centers.
There is a certain, I call her sort of like this graceful empress, really. She's the person who, when you meet her, she's really warm, engaging, welcoming. She's not trying to intimidate you. She truly has this sense about herself. She's you might even call it very, very grounded, but also very open-hearted and very intelligent. Like everything is working together.
Yeah.
And for a lot of women, there's just many reasons why that doesn't happen. It's not, we're just sort of conditioned out of that.
Right.
Because that is the source of our power. So if you wanted to sort of undermine feminine power for thousands of years, you might do it through trying to control and capture women's sexuality.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Seriously, I have goosebumps.
Yeah, it seems like a radical idea, but it is our time to just step forward in a graceful and empowered way.
Right.
And say, yes, I'm going to be the woman in my home, in my group, that says yes to my pleasure in an appropriate and beautiful way. Right.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And if I found where men were, I would totally take advantage of it. But that's for another day, Dawn.
That's for another day.
That's a whole other conversation. So, okay. So they, one should reach out to you to really to really understand this more. And once they start to work to understand it, how can they use all of this new self-knowledge and self-awareness to really manifest? Because I would love for you to explain what we commented in the introduction, how women manifest differently. So how can they use it to support, like you said, business dreams, life dreams, to help them in their day in, day out?
So think about this as a way of cultivating a really powerful energy source that adds fuel to the process of manifesting. So manifesting is the art of bringing something that we don't see into reality. And so if we have a desire for something, and we see and feel this desire, that that completed desire is actually happening in the Akashic records right now. So the Akashic records are the place where the stories of our soul are stored. And so in this process, has also gotten me to not only being a business coach and a sex, love, and relationship coach, but also an Akashic reader and an Akashic coach. And the
Nice.
reason for that is because, again, the soul connection to sensuality. And if you are a believer in past lives or that sort of thing, and maybe some people aren't, some people are, but there's a lot of reasons why women were constricted around issues of sex, money, and power, especially in past lives. So when you're thinking about a desire that we're bringing forward and we can see it like in our imagination, literally that is found in the Akashic records. So if we bring appreciation and energy to that vision, because the word appreciation means to expand, like a house appreciates or your car appreciates in value, right?
Nice.
So when we bring appreciation to it, it expands and we appreciate it into reality. And the place that we can tap into this really potent sense of fuel or source of fuel is our sexual energy. And moving that sexual energy up through the body in a very deliberate way takes it from, being a soul idea all the way up into reality. And there's lots of stuff written about this. Napoleon Hill wrote about the process of what he called sexual transmutation in chapter 11, the famous chapter 11. But he didn't really give us like the 411 on how to do that. And it was kind of geared towards men. Right? Because of course that's how it was then.
It was written it was
written in 29 or something like that. Yeah. So I think, for women, there's and I also want to be clear that I'm talking about the energy of sex, rather not necessarily the act of sex.
Yes.
Although they can be combined, right?
Right.
But this is really about that life force energy, that little uptick that you get if you're excited about something or you're working on something, and it's really, we'll use words to say like, man, I'm really kind of fire in the belly for that, or it's kind of sparking my interest, or that kind of thing. That's a feeling, right? Like in that body, and that is our sexual life force energy that we want to use for something productive, like bringing our soul work to the world. So
no, it's so true, because I wrote the word, as you were talking through that, I wrote the word dopamine down again for myself, because I'm very visual, and I'm not sure what the word is exactly right now, that like as you're talking, like I've created that feeling, and I now understand that if we can create that physical and emotional excitement, energy, butterflies, fire in the belly. I mean, it just like physically shifts you.
It does.
And all of a sudden you feel like so wide open and so creative, and like I'm about to like go out and conquer the world.
Right. Like you're tapped into this different source of intuition. Right. And so, there's been a lot of research, of course, done about the electrical waves of the brain. Those are called the EEGs, I think, and the EKGs around the heart. I'm sure you've read about heart math, and they're amazing research, right?
Yeah.
No one's really done any research about the uterus and the womb area. I remain hopeful that someday some scientist is going to do this, but women have this whole neural net that lines the pelvic bowl that men do not have. And the placement of these nerves, some are grouped together in different areas in the pelvis. And that is actually what determines the way a woman likes to orgasm. So if you prefer, manual stimulation, or whatever you prefer, that has to do with how your nerves are wired together in the pelvis. But if you think about this
Mhm.
sort of fishnet of nerves coming into the pelvic bowl, and as we drop our energy and awareness in there, we're actually able to radiate out into our surroundings to pick up information in the same way we use our heart and our head, like when we go into a room, right?
Yep.
And like you walk into a party and you're like, man, this is going to be so fun, right? Or you walk into a room and you're like, oh, we're only going to be here 5 minutes and I'm done, right? What
Yeah.
just happened? We have picked up something through the greater field of electrical energy from the other humans, and we know if it's safe or not, right?
Right.
And as women, we use that lower pelvic area for our safety all the time. If you think about, you can
That
feel
makes sense.
someone behind you. You're
Right.
not generally feeling it through the heart,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it is a safe, we've developed it for safety and protection. And
Yeah.
I'm just suggesting that we acknowledge it
Right.
and start to use it for information from the environment all the time,
Yeah.
because this is the capacity that we carry for more abundance, right? More money, how we carry money in our field as an energy.
Yeah.
Money, that's why we call money currency. It is an energy.
And so would you also be saying that the phrase gut intuition is
Mhm.
actually
Yeah,
lower?
it's a little bit lower, right? It's, although the intestines have more neurons than the brain does.
Right.
Yeah, the
Right.
brain, the gut is incredibly intelligent, and we know things. We know things with our gut,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's also the the rest of it for
Right.
women. Mhm.
Right. Right. God, that's fascinating. That is
It's so
absolutely.
interesting. It's so crazy to think
Yeah.
how. Yeah,
Okay, so say from a practical, let's get practical perspective.
yeah.
So, our listeners right now, they are, they have some challenges in their business. They have some challenges with the monies, the cash flow, the
Mhm.
ability to invest in their business. What would be kind of, one or two tips that they should just, kind of focus on and act on as soon as they're done listening to us and watching us?
So here's what I would love for people to do is, first of all, ask yourself, what is it that I really sell?
Felt?
What sell? What is it, the one thing that I sell? How do people
Uh,
give me money, right?
okay.
What do I sell?
Right.
And is that one thing something that I'm deeply aligned with? Okay. And if the answer is yes, second question is, how do I measure the success of selling that thing? So this is a really important idea in the world of energy, is the key indicator of strategic success. And um, focusing on this number will literally help you double your business in 90 days. I have a whole program called Double in 90. And it seems crazy, but you literally can double your business in 90 days. And the way you do that is you're aligned with what you sell, and then you're focusing on the one number that moves the dial the most. It's not always money. Sometimes it's number of new clients. Sometimes it's a number of phone calls. Sometimes it's income from a certain source. There's many ways of measuring it, right? But key indicators can be very complicated, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of them that you can look at in your business.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
with your you could look at number of views, number of downloads,
Right.
like so many different things,
Right.
right?
That it can
But
get overwhelming.
it can get overwhelming. So it's important to drill down into what is thing, the one thing that's driving the result of the one thing I sell. And that's what we're going to put our attention on.
Yeah.
Because once we do that, then things roll. And I'll just give you a quick example. One of my
Please.
clients owns a 3-location therapy practice. And so we've worked together for several years. When we first started working together, her revenues were around 200,000, and she was literally just measuring how much money was coming into the practice. And so after a lot of talk and sort of narrowing it down, now the key indicator that drives results is the percentage of kept appointments.
Her clients kept appointments.
Right. So she's got 4 therapists who work for her. And what really drives revenues is not how many appointments are on the book, not how many people are calling in, not how many people are getting whatever kind of therapy, how many people show up and we can bill for them. That's what drives revenues. Right. So when we started to measure percentage of kept appointments, it went from about 67% to almost 80%. And just measuring that as the one key indicator took her over $500,000 in revenue. Like that's a huge jump just for literally doing no additional marketing, no additional hiring, right? It's just using the energy of the business, right? Because in a business, every business's results are driven by the consciousness of the business owner.
Right. Yes.
Right. So what harnessing our consciousness and, directing it to the one thing, as well as saying yes to, every part of our business, our body, it produces crazy results like that. Like where, you're like no additional marketing expense or whatever. Mm-hmm.
Right. Fascinating. And yes, I think that is a great exercise for all of you to be doing. And then after that, you go to DawnTodd.com.
I got a lot of really good downloads there, guys. There's a lot of free stuff. I've written a bunch of books. 2 of my books are on there for free. So lots of opportunity to dive into this and understand it for yourself. So
love it. Absolutely love it. And I also want to mention that she has a gift of a playlist on Spotify that can help you manifest love and money. So I want you to make a note of this. It's DawnTodd.com. It's on the screen. And then just simply put /podcast. And again, it's a playlist on Spotify to manifest love and money, which is fabulous.
Absolutely. There's some cool stuff there for people.
Yeah. Any last thoughts or suggestions for our listeners in regards to this subject?
So I guess the last thing I would say is asking yourself, what can I do to really drop into that power center, that lower, into my womb, into my gut, right? It might be as simple as just bringing all your attention way down deep in your body and recognizing if it's uncomfortable. And that's a great place to start because we carry a lot of emotion there.
Yeah. And it's good to get uncomfortable, right?
It can be an interesting experience to just be uncomfortable with it because, that's the great thing about being an entrepreneur is there's always this edge of growth for us. We're always, it's such a personal development journey. It's why we are entrepreneurs, right?
It is. Okay. But I do have one more question because what is the problems that your client or at the time prospective client is having to where then they come, and they find you and then all of a sudden it's moving into this space of, sex and money and your body and these centers and the manifestations. But what's their initial reason that is causing them pain?
Typically it's about the money. I have a newer client who, we typically the conversation starting like my cash flow it sucks. Like it's unpredictable. It's up and down. I can't get a handle on it. My staff is like all over the place. I can't get good team members. I'm doing all the work to support everybody's payroll, those kinds of things. And then as we have more conversations, and I have to share this, I had a client recently who, came to me about the money and staffing issues, and then realized that she actually had not had any pleasure in 18 months. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Right? And so is it any wonder that she was feeling exhausted, burned out, totally drained, can't get a handle on the business? Revenues are dropping. Well, yeah, because, the business is attached in our Akashic records. The business is like a kid.
Right.
So of course it's energetically attached. Of course, how we feel in our body is driving the results.
Yep.
Right. And what more enlivening force of energy is there than sensuality or life force energy? So
sure.
Right.
Yeah. Too many of you listening and watching are so worried about the skills or not having the right product or not have, all the external things that aren't the issue.
No, you know what? You can take another class on strategy and read another ebook, and it'll tell you to do the 10 easy steps to blah, 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 blah. But if you're not aligned with it and you're not bringing the energy to bring it to life, it just falls flat. And it's, it's not about the strategy. It's about the alignment that you have with that. That's in my opinion.
Well, no, because when I left corporate and went out on my own, I spent the first, I would say, I guess it was 1.5 years, 2 years, positioning myself under a brand and a business name and a business philosophy that I thought, because that's where I came from, that world and that attitude and that positioning and that polish and formality. I thought that was me. But I just could not get my head around going out and even saying the words. And all of a sudden,
I get that.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm like, I wish I knew Todd back then.
Well, you have a perfect example of what happens when you're influenced by a different way of looking at it. And I just want to be clear, the masculine way of doing things, it's not wrong. It is freaking awesome.
Right.
Everything in our society was created at a time women couldn't even vote.
Right.
I mean, so we have hospitals and libraries and all this. Men know how to make big things and do it over and over and over again.
Right.
Right. But right now we are in a different time where it's what is really called for is people who are aligned and soulful and bringing that to the world, right? Yep. We have so much structure. Right now, we need the energy. We need aligned empath entrepreneurs to get off their asses and start doing their work, right? Yeah. Especially coming out of a global pandemic, when everyone is freaking out. So the need for coaches right now, oh my word.
Oh yeah.
Right?
And it's only going to grow.
It's only going to grow. It is off the charts.
Yeah.
And so it's so important that, people that have this message and this gift to bring, that they get about their business. And in my opinion, dropping into your sensuality and understanding how empaths, women, entrepreneurs create things a little differently than the way we've been taught. And you learned that too. You lived that.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I want to have you, I said I was done and I'm not. I want you to, because you mentioned double and 90, and I don't want to go without giving you an opportunity to explain that further. So could you could provide that information for us?
Yeah, it's a program inside my coaching world, I guess. I've been teaching a double and 90 class for, oh my God, I bet 10 years. It's such a great way of looking at business. You chunk your business down into a 90-day segment. You get a spreadsheet, and we track your actions, and we track every action that drives that key indicator. So it's really a way of putting energy on a spreadsheet.
Right.
It's such a dorky little corner of the world, but it's, how do we take intention to the bank? That's what I wanted to know. Let's track that stuff, right? Yeah. Because the phone company doesn't care how good I feel or how much dopamine I've got. They want the green stuff. And
exactly.
Right.
I love it. And where do they find out? Where do they find out more about it?
That is inside a greater coaching program. They could run to my website and have a conversation. And I'm by the time this interview airs, I will have just finished a training I'm doing called the Venus Experience.
Okay.
Just go to my website and contact me and I can get you more information.
Awesome.
Oh, by the way, I have a book. Duh. I just wrote a book in the fall called Intentional Business Double in 90. I guess you can get that on Amazon. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay, say that one more time.
It's called Intentional Business Double in 90.
Double in 90.
Double your client's income or cash in 90 days, I think is the whole title. So
on Amazon, and just go to Dawn Todd in Amazon. You'll find her author page. And you'll find the book. So that's awesome. I'm so glad I asked about that.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot. How did I forget that? I don't know.
No worries. All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been absolutely awesome and very awakening.
Thank you so much, Bernadette. I really appreciate your energy and enthusiasm. And thank you for doing these interviews with people. It serves so many people. So thank you.
You are very welcome. I'm
so
honored to be able to do it. And yes, and I'm honored to kind of introduce you and others to the community. So you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, DawnTodd.com, everybody. Wildly successful women. Wildly successful. Wildly. I can't even say it. But thank you so much. And for everybody, and for everyone else, thank you for joining us for this episode of Shedding the Bitch Radio. And be sure to check us out on our Shed the Bitch TV channel on YouTube, as well as on Shedding the Bitch in Facebook. And of course, go to sheddingthebitch.com and or balloffirecoaching.com for all of our episodes. And then tune in next Tuesday at noon Eastern time for another episode of Shedding the Bitch Radio. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Shedding the Bitch Radio with Bernadette Boas. Join Bernadette every Tuesday at noon Eastern as she helps you shift your bitches to riches. And the dialogue is always going on at sheddingthebitch.com. See you next week.